Is Esme a bad influence on Zig? Plus, Yael's not a big fan of makeup, and what on earth is going on with Maya? Hey, I'm Carrie from DegrassiBlog.com, and welcome to another edition of Degrassi Corner. And today, we're looking at the second episode of Degrassi Next Class Season 3, hashtag I woke up like this. Now, one of the major themes of this episode is the fact that, if someone has something that they really enjoy and, they're doing it and, it's not really hurting anybody, just let them be. Let them live, man. Don't stick your nosy, judgy behind into their business. Just let them do what they want to do and just let them be happy. However, I'm just going to go ahead and talk about the Maya plot first of all, because that was completely unrelated to that theme. Basically, Maya's plot just sets up the fact that there is something not right with Maya. We know that she's been missing from school for the first several days of the school year, and she's finally come back. And, she's now feeling overwhelmed by everything. She basically has a lot of schoolwork she's got to catch up on. Plus, she's also got university applications that she needs to apply for. And she's also got Grace and Jonah on her case because, they're trying to put together this music. And they want her to write these lyrics very quickly. But the problem is she feels completely overwhelmed. And she even tells Miss Grell that she feels like she's underwater. And no matter what she does, it feels like she just can't get to the surface. And then we see this metaphorical scene at the end where she's in the bathtub and she's underwater and she's holding her breath until she can't hold it anymore. And then she pops up and she starts gasping for air. Basically, this plot is just setting up the fact that Maya's going to have a really rough time in Season 3. She's dealing with some stuff internally. And we also see Saad in this episode for a hot minute. He's going to be involved in the storyline with her as well. One thing I really liked, though, is the fact that Maya, she knows something's wrong, so she's actually coming out and telling someone that something doesn't feel right before everything just completely melts down around her. And this is also one of those stories where just the thought of knowing where it's going, it just makes me feel uneasy, especially in the beginning, because you can see throughout this episode she's smiling quite a bit. But, you can just definitely tell that her smile is fake and that she's just putting on a show for everyone. And, just behind those eyes and behind that smile, she's just completely numb inside. Now, moving on to one of the other plots in this episode, you have Zig and Esme. Basically, Esme, she gives Zig a blowjob in the school parking lot. And then when Tiny and Jonah and Frankie and Shay find out, they're grossed out. They start making all these really rude comments about Esme. They call her crazy and they call her a slut. However, Tiny does have a genuine concern about the fact that if Zig keeps skipping classes to hang out with Esme, he is going to flunk his senior year. So Zig does some tutoring for, his makeup exam and math, and Esme comes in and she's like, hey, let's hang out, but Zig's like, no, I gotta really tutor for this. And, he also says that his friends don't really think that Esme is a good influence on him, that she's too big of a distraction. And at that point, Esme says that she's good at math, so she helps to actually tutor him. But then while she's tutoring him for math, we see that Zig receives a message on his phone, Esme sees it, and then she disappears. But then we find out later on that Esme is upset because she read this group chat that Zig's in with Tiny and Jonah, where basically Tiny and Jonah, they're saying that Esme is easy and also calling her thirsty. And then Zig makes this comment about, well, as long as, you don't wife her up, it's okay if you get to third base. And, that really upsets Esme. So she basically has a meltdown in the middle of the hallway. Then at the end we see that Zig tries to apologize. He gets a good grade on his test thanks to Esme. And then she reveals that, that one of the reasons she might be, quote, crazy is the fact that she watched her mom kill herself when she was younger. And then Zig comes to the conclusion that Esme might be, messed up or whatever, but he's just as messed up as she is because, he's got kicked out of his house, he's selling drugs, he was in a gang, and now he lives in a group home. And basically the point of this storyline comes in a conversation between Maya and Zig, where Maya basically says that, if dating Esme makes you happy and, it makes you feel good, then it doesn't matter what anyone else thinks. Now, something I saw on Twitter recently, I think, it was someone asking, why hasn't Degrassi addressed the fact that everyone on the show, basically everyone on the show, slut shames Esme? And to be perfectly honest, they actually have been addressing it. They've been addressing it by having this consistently happen to her over the past 3 seasons. The thing about Degrassi, and they have said this before, they're not an after-school special. They're not like a drug or a sex program that's trying to help you to make the right decisions. It's not their job to tell teenagers how to react in certain situations. And sometimes Degrassi, they just want to present the world in the way that it really is. And you know, the way that people have been treating Esme throughout Next Class is just a prime example of that. You know, in real life, every day I hear people talking crap about other people and they get away with it. And I could go onto any, you know, social media timeline of mine and I'll see people talking crap about other people, saying awful things about these people they don't even know, and of course they get away with it. Heck, even in this fandom, Degrassi's own fandom, Degrassi fans will say the most horrible things about other Degrassi fans and they get away with it. So all of these characters talking crap about Esme and slut-shaming Esme, not only behind her back but straight to her face, this is just an uncomfortably accurate representation of the world and how it really is. And that's what makes this story so brilliant. And finally, moving on to the final plot in this episode, you have Yael. You know, the gamers have now become vloggers, and now their channel is kind of lacking in the female department, so they ask Yael, the only female in the group, to do makeup tutorials. The problem is, Yael, she's not like a girly girl, so to speak. You know, she's in the games and that's basically it. So while Yael is doing this makeup tutorial, basically she messes up and then she goes on this rant about how makeup is stupid and how people who spend all this time and money on makeup are stupid, and then she posts the actual video of her entire rant. And that causes a major backlash, not only in the YouTube comments, but she's also confronted by both Lola and Frankie, who are big fans of makeup. I love how the story, instead of it being, you know, a guy who's making comments about women wearing makeup, is actually another female who's making disparaging comments about why other females wear makeup. And I also love the fact that they have both Lola and Frankie putting Yael in her place, because Yael, she has the nerve to tell both these girls that they're wearing makeup because they're doing it to impress boys and because the patriarchy is oppressing them. And basically their response is, no, we wear makeup because we enjoy putting it on and it makes us feel good about ourselves. And that's something that Yael can't understand. Like, granted, you know, makeup is not her thing. And yes, Yael, she's a feminist, but, you know, she's completely out of line here. Like, it's not her place to tell women what they should be able to do. If a woman wants to enjoy makeup, then that's her thing. Like, let her enjoy makeup. If you enjoy games, ladies, then enjoy games. Like, do your thing. You don't need to tell people. It's not your place to tell people what they should or shouldn't like. And yes, unrealistic beauty standards do exist, but in Yael's case, part of her insecurity is the fact that she knows she's not your typical girl. She's in the games and all that sort of stuff. And she's also trying to break into a very male-dominated area in the tech world. So that's why we're seeing a lot of angst from her when it comes to women and them trying to wear makeup. But in the end, Yael, she stands up for herself to the other vloggers, to Hunter, VJ, and Baz, and basically says, I don't want to do this. I shouldn't have to do these vlogs about makeup. So in the end, they just hire Lola to do the makeup tutorials instead. And that's going to do it for this episode of Degrassi Corner. Thank you for joining me. If you have any comments about this episode, you know, Zig and Esme, all of the slut-shaming comments and trash talk about Esme, or, you know, the debate about women and should and shouldn't they wear makeup, and any thoughts about the Maya storyline, because especially if you've seen the entire storyline, you know, I want to know your thoughts about this entire storyline from beginning to end, because it gets really, really dark, especially when we get to the very end of this season. Leave all your comments in the comment section below, and make sure you subscribe to this channel. I still have, I think, like 8 more reviews to do for Degrassi Next Class Season 3.